Welcome back. Now, the National Lottery Good Causes Awards are aiming to celebrate inspiring work of organisations, groups and sports clubs who can benefit from funding. And the awards will be broadcast on Virgin Media One on Sunday, November 11th at 9 o'clock.
Now, one of the finalists is the Charman Domestic Abuse Services, and we're joined by manager Siobhan McKenna and domestic abuse activist Marilyn O'Connor. Good morning to you both.
Morning.
Morning.
And thank you, ladies, for joining us. I'm going to come to you first, Siobhan, because we kicked this off yesterday with explaining, I suppose, an outline of the National Lottery Good Causes and the initiative, how important it is for smaller groups right around the community. Yours is hugely important. Tell us what you do.
Well, we provide an information and support service for women who are experiencing domestic abuse. And that is provided through telephone support, one-to-one therapeutic work, court accompaniment, advocacy, a range of awareness-raising projects, and basically to raise awareness of domestic abuse, raise awareness of the service, and to encourage women to step out of the situation and really look at what their life is about and the changes that they might want to make. So we are there to support them in any changes that they want to make and to provide options for what that journey might be.
So I take it the initial step for them to make contact with you is lifting the phone?
Yes.
And telling you their story. Is that where it usually starts?
Yeah. If they will phone us, and then that gives them an opportunity just to talk about what their situation is. We probably will be the first person that they have ever spoken to, because 70% of women don't speak to anybody about what's really going on in their relationship. So then we will...
especially if they're embarrassed by it.
Absolutely, and the shame of that in itself keeps you in the relationship a lot of the time. But really, it's then at that point that we will talk about what's going on. We will encourage them really to come to a one-to-one session, because at that they can explore more of, you know, their feelings, their emotions, the practicalities of what they might need to do to sometimes to escape that relationship, but they don't always want to do that. So really it's about what they want, and we're there to support them in whatever they want to do.
Marilyn, can we bring you in here? You have been a huge support of Charman for several years now, but you actually came into contact with them first as a service user. So can you tell us your story?
Well, I did. Well, I'd been in abusive relationships for many years, and
this is very hard, by the way, and we acknowledge that. So take your time, and we'll jump back to Siobhan about the service if this is particularly difficult, because I know men and women this morning will be watching thinking this is not an easy thing for you to sit here and talk about.
Thank you. But I'd reached a point where I felt where I was in a black pit. I had become socially isolated. People had asked me for coffees. I think of every excuse not to go. People didn't want to come and visit me. I thought of every excuse not to see them, because I had nothing happy to talk about. I was just so bogged down with years and years of abuse. And I'd taken to the bed. I'd stay in bed. I just had lost the will to exist.
So where did you hear about the Charman services?
Well, what happened, I was up one day and I was washing my kitchen floor, and I heard an advertisement on the radio, and the words were, "Don't suffer in silence." And then some little light went on in my head, and I thought, Marilyn, you've got to get a grip of your life. You've got to do something here. So I did. I picked up the phone, and it was Siobhan's voice. And it was just so freeing, because I'd felt all these terrible things. I felt shame. I felt fear. And I felt self-blame. And when I started going to Charman, it was almost like I had to be deprogrammed to understand what was abuse, what wasn't, what was acceptable behaviour and what wasn't.
And I would imagine picking up the phone and making that initial phone call was probably one of the hardest things you've ever had to do.
It absolutely was. It was very scary, but also it was such a relief that I said it out loud.
Of course.
That was the most freeing thing.
Can I ask you, is it emotional abuse or physical abuse that you were suffering, or both?
Both. Both. And, you know, like, one is as bad as the other.
Of course, absolutely.
You know, and very slowly, very quickly actually, but it takes such a long time to pluck up the courage to do something about it. And because, you know, I assumed responsibility. I thought it was my fault. I thought there was something wrong with me. And I stayed quiet. and I was so ashamed. And it tears you down, it tears your confidence, it destroys your confidence, it destroys everything. Well, for me, I only can speak for me personally. I felt it destroyed everything of me as I was, as a woman and as a human being.
Mm-hmm. You felt you're failing.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
totally,
and it was
totally.
your fault. And I would imagine you're very familiar with that story, Siobhan.
Oh, absolutely. But, you know, it's the bravery of the women that actually step out and step up to make that change in their life, whatever it is.
And we're talking about 3,000 women over the past
Yes,
20 years, give or take those figures. What would you do with the money if you were to win? I mean, where would the funds go towards?
Well, I think we're talking about 30,000. So I think I would like to develop a training programme particularly focused at young people, and then it will be developed further into the community, so that there's so many young people out there, both boys and girls, who have experienced either directly or indirectly the whole domestic abuse within their family. So I would really like to see how we can manage the hurt that those children are experiencing, and how we can start to look at the trauma that they have experienced. And I would like to work directly with Safe Ireland, the National Social Change Agency, to develop tools, and particularly online tools in a modern world, around how we can stop this cycle of abuse, but how we can really
We've
start
a lot
to
of work
face
to
it.
do, but what you're doing is absolutely incredible, and thank you for doing it. Marilyn, if you came on this couch this morning and encouraged one man or woman to pick up the phone, then you've done an incredible job this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well
ladies,
done.
for joining us.
Thank you.
Best of luck. Thank you. Lots more to come on Weekend AM, but first let's look at another nominee for the